Hey, it's Nate Savage here, and welcome back to Guitar Foundations. This lesson, we're going to expand your chord library by learning the open G and C major chords. And we kind of started off easy with the A, D, and E open major chords. But things get a little tougher here. The C and the G chords are typically the harder open chords for most people to create, but don't worry, you have all the information you need, and you've already been developing the skills. We just have to kind of push that to the next level. So what you need to do is just review your Clean Chord Checklist, and I'll go through this really quickly here, and then we'll jump into the open G and C shapes. Now, if you have any questions about this, you can always post them in the comments below, or email me, nate@natesavage.com, or head over to natesavage.com to book a private lesson with me if you're having trouble with any one particular area. Let's go ahead and go through this checklist real quick. Number one, get your guitar set up by a professional. It costs some money, but it's totally worth it. Number two, start with a relaxed posture like you're holding an apple or baseball. Number three, bring the guitar neck up a little higher with a strap or a footstool to put it in a better position for making these chords. Number four, don't kink your wrist too far one way or the other. That will make it really tough to get a good sound out of these chords. Number five, put your fingers right behind the frets when you're making these chords. That'll clear up any buzziness. Number six, curve your fingers to come down right down the very tips of your fingers so you don't mute the neighboring strings. That's a really important one. Number seven, keep your elbow kind of relaxed down here close to your body. That'll put your hand and your arm in a better position for a better angle of attack on the strings. And having your guitar up a little bit too will kind of work in conjunction with that to make it easier to make these chords sound really good. Number eight, experiment with how much pressure you actually need. You don't want to overexert yourself, but you do want to get a nice clean sound. So experiment with how much pressure you need to make these chords sound clean. Number nine, put on one finger at a time at first when you're learning these new chords, but work or shoot toward putting the whole shape on at once. And number 10, repetition is key. So put the chord out shape on, leave it there for a while, take it off, on, off, and practice them multiple times per day if you can. Okay, let's get into the nemesis chord for all beginner guitar players, and that's the open C major chord. I'll show you the fingering, and then we'll talk about how to apply these tips to make this chord sound as good as possible. So first finger, first fret of the B string. Second finger, second fret of the D string. Third finger, here's the kicker, has to reach all the way out here to the third fret of the A string. And there are a couple things going on here. Number one, every finger in this chord has a potential to lay over and mute a neighboring string. So your index finger can accidentally mute that high E string, your second finger can actually mute the G string, your third finger can accidentally mute the D string there. And let me give you a perfect example of how not to make this chord. If you look at my hand right here, my wrist is really kinked, my hand is kind of collapsed, my knuckle right here is kind of collapsed on the back of the neck, and my elbow is up. And that's what happens to a lot of people. So you want to make sure not to do any of those things. And just lowering your elbow a little bit can take care of a lot of those things. But also watch, my wrist is still kinked. Like not having it be like this and just having it just a nice neutral position. It's a big key. You don't have to have your fingers parallel with the strings. Coming in from an angle is good a lot of the times. But not having it out here, your wrist out here, and not having your elbow out here, really important to get all these strings to ring out. So once you have this chord on, leave the low E string out. Don't play it at all. Put your pick on your A string or fifth string. If you have to look back to work on your aim for this, that's good and normal. Just play through all 5 of those strings and check for any kind of buzz. And if you hear, just go through your checklist. I can feel this third finger muting the G string and even my open high E string. So the big challenge here may not be these 2 fingers, it's probably going to be this finger, getting that guitar up high, not kinking your wrist out here like this, and getting your elbow in will help bring that third finger up tall to where you can play all 3 strings. So I know this is a lot to think about, but put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off over and over again, 1 finger at a time at first. Shooting for that day when you'll be able to go all at once with the C chord shape. And there's no way around this. You just have to apply all the tips we just went over in the Clean Chord Checklist to the shape. And if you have any questions, you can always email me or send me a video of you playing this, and maybe I can point out a trouble area that you don't see for yourself. Also, just filming yourself playing or putting a mirror up in front of your hand can really help you see some things that you might not see if you're just looking down like this. So that's something that I recommend doing on a regular basis, is filming yourself so you can see what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. Okay, on to the open G major chord. I have two different versions of this for you. I recommend learning both because I use both of them at different times. They're two different fingerings, same notes on the guitar. Let's start with the easy one just to kind of break you into this new shape. Use all 6 strings for this chord so you don't have to worry about strumming aim, just at all 6 of them. Second finger is going to go on the 3rd fret of the low E. First finger, 2nd fret of the A, and your 3rd finger reaches out here all the way on the high E string on the 3rd fret. And then you strum all 6 strings. So go through that clean chord checklist if it sounds like this, right? Now what's happening here? My wrist is kinked out this way. My elbow is also out. So if I relax, lift my guitar a little, get that kink out of the wrist, it allows me to come on a good angle of attack on the strings right behind the frets to where I'm not muting the neighboring strings. So this middle finger right here is going to want to mute the A string. If I get right on the very tip of the finger, it helps not do that. And then this first finger is going to want to mute the D string, so be aware of that one too. And then just take it off and put it on over and over again. And one thing that helps me when I'm away from guitar, you can even practice this too, visualize or think about where those notes go. And it'll help you memorize the guitar faster even when you're away from your guitar. But that's your first fingering that you can use for this. The one that I like to use is the same shape, but you use your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fingers instead of your 1st, 2nd, 3rd fingers. There's a really good reason for this, is it allows you to switch between your G and C chord very quickly, because those are 2 chords that go together a lot in music. So 3rd finger, and this one is harder just because you're using your pinky. 3rd finger, 3rd fret of the low E. Middle finger, 2nd fret of the A. And pinky, the nasty killer, all the way up here on the 3rd fret of the high E string. And you'll notice, like a lot of times when I play this G chord, my pinky is almost sideways like this. It's almost at a 45-degree angle coming down like that. That helps me a lot. It may not help you. You're gonna have to play around with it. But all the clean chord tips will help you here. So if you're having this problem, make sure that your palm isn't on the back of the neck. Make sure your thumb is back there instead, and you have some kind of gap between your hand and the guitar there. Elbow in, right behind the frets, tall fingers, elevate the guitar if you need to. And this is going to be tough because it's really the only time we're using our pinky to play any of these chords. There's going to be a new coordination that you're going to have to get down and just build up the strength in that. So putting this on over and over again is going to be key here. 1 finger at a time, and then working toward, going all at once. So over and over again. Again, boring practice, but separating this out to where you're working on only the chord shapes on their own first before switching between chords is going to be very important. So putting this on 1 finger at a time for right now, and really working out the kinks out of these chords while going through the checklists for clean chords is going to be super important. Make sure they can play these chords on their own cleanly before trying to go on and switch between chords like we're about to do in these exercises. If you need to stop the video and just take these chords for a few days or a few weeks in your practice time and get them down so we can go right to that C or right to that G, that's going to be really important. If you're feeling confident with this, we can go ahead and go through these changing chord smoothly exercises with the C and G chord. Okay, exercise number 1 just goes back and forth between a G and a C major. It has 1 full measure of a G chord, followed by 1 full measure of rest, and then 1 full measure of a C chord, followed by 1 full measure of a rest. So you have an entire 4 beats to make the switch between each chord. When you're first starting this one, don't try to use a metronome or jam track at first. Just go at your own speed that you need to. So count 1, 2, 3, 4. Switch to C. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now measure of rest, switch to the G, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And just repeat this over and over again as much as you need to. The important thing is that you really think about the next chord that's coming up. Think about what it feels like. Think about what it looks like. Stay aware of where you are in the progression and use that time that you have that whole measure of rest to make that switch as cleanly as possible. And you're going to know really quickly if you have the C and G shapes down really well on their own, because it'll be much easier to go through these exercises. If you're really struggling with getting to that next chord, that means you need to go back and work on the individual chord shapes more. Okay, let's try this exercise with a metronome, 70 beats per minute. And you can back this off to 60 if you need to, if you think that helps. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest. Go move to your C. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest. Move to that G. 3, 4. G. 2, 3, 4. Rest. Move to that C. 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. And then rest. Okay, I bet you can guess what's coming next. All whole notes, rests removed. So do it without a metronome at first, then with a metronome. So try to hold that second whole note out as long as you can to make the exercise and the measures connected. So 1, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4. Another measure G, 2. Hold it as long as you can, then to the C. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Comes the G. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another one. Hold as long as you can. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I should mention something here that's kind of not a secret, but it's a handy little tip for the C chord. Work on your strumming aim, just hitting the top 5 strings there. But what you can also do is have your thumb come over a little bit just to mute this low E string if you're feeling confident with how your C is feeling and sounding. If you're not, if you can't make it clean like that, don't worry about it. Just concentrate on your strumming aim to leave that low string out. But if you're feeling good, you can mute that low E string too. You can do that with a metronome, 70 beats per minute again, and that'll kind of force you to stay on track and hold those chords out as long as you can. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. C, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, G. Do the G again. Here comes the C, 3, 4. Make the switch. 1, 2. Always be thinking about what chord's coming up next. 1, 2, 3. It's the G, and here you go. All right, we have 2 more variations on this exercise, and all we're doing is kicking things up a notch as far as the note values go, so you have less time to make that switch. The first variation is with quarter notes, and then we move to 8th notes too. So same 2 exercises, just with the quarter notes and 8th notes. So still same format, a measure of G, 1, 2, 3, 4, using all down strokes, quarter notes. Then you have a measure of rest, then 1, 2, 3, 4, a measure of C using all downstroke quarter notes, then a measure of rest. So I'm going to put the metronome on, and you want to do this without a metronome at first, and then with a metronome, just to make sure that you have the chord shapes down on their own very well first. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest. 2, 3. Comes the C. 1, 2, 3, 4. Comes the G, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you're comfortable with that and you feel like you can take that rest out, take it out and put some more quarter notes in there. The thing is here, when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're only going to have 1 quarter note or less than a quarter note, like an 8th note, to make that change, because you want to keep that G ringing out as long as possible before moving to the C. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And one kind of stepping stone here will be to hit just the open strings as you make the transition. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 on beat 4, just to buy you some time to get to that C chord. Eventually you'll want to work to where that's not there, to where you're hitting 4, 1 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. But it's a really good stepping stone and kind of training tool. So here it is with quarter notes, rests removed. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another measure of G. 2. Think about that C coming up. Switch. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 4. Back to G. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Back to C. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you need to go review the Guitar Foundations lesson on changing chords smoothly, now's a great time to do that, just to kind of refresh yourself on all the smooth chord transition tips in that list there. All right, if you're feeling up for the challenge, we're going to move to eighth notes now. So one measure of G with eighth notes, measure of rest, measure of C with eighth notes, then a measure of rest, then repeat the whole thing. You can use all downstrokes, or you can use alternating down and upstrokes, whatever you want. The main thing is your work on changing between your C and G major chords a lot smoother for this one. So here it is. It's going to be something like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4. And if you need to count out loud during this one, that's cool. That'll help you stay on track. Here it is: 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2. Back to a G. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Back to a C. 4, 1, 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, the ultimate goal for this lesson is to switch between your G and C chords using eighth notes, no rests. So it's going to be coming very quick, so you have to make that transition. Again, you can use the open chord or open string blip to help you if you want. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1. Kind of like that, but what you want to shoot for is no gaps or blips at all. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And this is going to be kind of the ultimate test. It's going to let you know if you need to go back and work on your G and C chords on their own, or if you have them down to where you can use them in any chord progression and change between them smoothly. All right, 70 beats per minute, and I'm going to use all downstrokes for this. 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. G again. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3. Here comes a G. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and C. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And you may be thinking to yourself, Nate, this is ridiculous. Is this ever going to get easier? The answer is yes, it's going to get easier. You are putting in the work that you need right now. This is exactly what you need to be doing to lay your foundation so you can play the guitar the way you want to later. Here are your assignments for this lesson. Number 1, read through the Clean Chord Checklist several times. Number 2, work on your open C major chord. Number 3, work on your strumming aim for your open C chord. Number 4, work on your open G major chord shapes, both fingerings for them. Number 5, work on your strumming aim for the G major chord, so just hitting all 6 strings. Number 6, make sure you know the G and C chord shapes very well on their own first before moving on to the following exercises. Number 7, and the number 7 through 12 are just practice through exercises 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So everything is kind of coming together for the perfect storm with, getting clean chords going, your strumming, changing chords smoothly. And I know it's a lot to think about, so if you have any questions, you can leave them here in the comments. I'll get back to you there. Now, if you're having really serious trouble with any of these individual areas, you can always go to natesavage.com and schedule a private lesson with me. The first one is complimentary, so there's no risk. I'm excited because you're going through the tough part of playing guitar now, and you're about to start breaking through and getting to where you can play a lot of really cool music. I'll see you in the next video.